Hey everyone, welcome to our best bets video for the 2023 to 2024 NFL Divisional round of the playoffs. We have 2 Saturday games and 2 Sunday games for the division round. Last week we had the wild card matchups, and this week we have the number 1 seeds playing everyone who made it through last week. There's some really good games this weekend. There's a lot of really good teams. There's some big spreads. There's some pretty close games, but we're going to be looking at the best bets portion here. So that's who we think is going to win, lose, what we predict the final scores will be, the money lines, the over-unders, and the spreads. Hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get things started. So kicking everything off, Saturday, January 20th, 2024, 4:30 p.m. on ESPN. We have the 10-7 Houston Texans versus the 13-4 Baltimore Ravens. This is the AFC divisional round, and this game is going to be in Baltimore. Baltimore comes in here. They are 9.5-point favorites here. Massive spread, and the over-under is 43.5. So Vegas basically has the Ravens winning pretty handedly. Now, when you look at these two teams, obviously the Texans are coming off of that beatdown this past weekend of the Cleveland Browns. They played a really good defense, a top 10 defense, and they beat the brakes off of them. So the Ravens are obviously one of the better rosters. They have a top 5 offense. They have a top 5 defense. But don't think that Houston can't score points on good defenses, because they beat the Browns up pretty bad this past weekend. Houston, obviously, defense has played really good the second half. Props to Ryans as the head coach. He's had a really good year so far this year. Basically, brought this team out of the gutter. CJ Stroud having an offensive rookie of the year season so far. They have playmakers. They have a decent defense. They have CJ Stroud, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks. They have Singletary at running back, and they have Collins at wide receiver. But the Ravens, they're stacked on both sides of the ball. Like we said, top 5 offense, top 5 defense. Lamar Jackson has gone off this year. They didn't even play their last game. So they basically sat their whole team for week 18 this season. So they didn't even play. They've been off 2 to 3 weeks. So it's possible that they could be a little rusty here. But even though they sat one game, Lamar Jackson closed out with 3,700 yards passing and just under 900 yards rushing. Ravens can beat you multiple ways. Looking at the total team stats here, you have the Texans averaging 22.2 points per game, Baltimore 28.4 points per game, top 5 offense. And on defense, Houston has a pretty decent defense. They give up 20.8 points per game. Baltimore, top 5 defense, giving up 16.5 points per game. Houston is going to try to stack that line, force Lamar Jackson into 3rd and long situations, try to bottle him up, keep him from scrambling. But the good news for the Ravens, not that they needed it, but Mark Andrews has been practicing the whole week. That's a massive load off of Lamar Jackson's shoulders. He has someone that he can go to 3rd and long, every single 3rd and long. The guy can fight for first downs. That's a big target. That takes a lot of pressure off of Lamar Jackson. Now, can he win this game by himself? Yes, but the more weapons he has, the better. So Ravens, pretty big favorites here, 9.5-point favorites. I have the Baltimore Ravens getting the win. I have them winning 28-20. So I'm going to be going with them not being able to cover the spread. I'm going with that plus 9.5, but I do have them going with the over. This game could potentially obviously be the Ravens beating the crap out of the Texans, but don't overlook the Texans. They're a really good team, had a really strong season, but it's probably going to end this weekend. Baltimore, they're shooting for the Super Bowl this year, but they might be a little rusty since the starters haven't played in about 2 to 3 weeks. The next game that we're looking at is our other number 1 seed. So at 8:15 p.m. on Fox, we have the 9-8 Green Bay Packers versus the 12-5 San Francisco 49ers. This is the NFC divisional round, and this game is going to be played in California. The 49ers come in here. They're 9.5-point favorites here, so another pretty big spread, and the over-under is 50.5. So Vegas also has this game being a pretty decent win for the 49ers. Packers are obviously coming off of that beatdown of the Cowboys. Cowboys had a top 5 defense. That did not keep the Packers from almost putting 50 points on them. They lit it up. They were throwing the ball, running the ball. They were playing special teams. So the Packers went on. So don't think just because the 49ers also have a really good defense that the Packers don't have the potential to be able to score a lot of points and turn this game into an easy shootout. Packers, Jordan Love had one of the best second halves of the season this year. He's basically, I think he's thrown for 20 touchdowns his last 8 or 9 games. So he's basically been going off the whole second half of the season. Packers first half were not a playoff team. They looked a lot better second half, mainly led by the offense, led by Jordan Love throwing the ball. He had 4,200 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, and 11 picks. A really strong season for him taking over for Aaron Rodgers. But their defense also really stepped up second half, mainly on the defensive line. They were getting a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. They're going to try to get that performance this weekend versus the 49ers. But we know what the 49ers are. Just like the Ravens, this is one of the best, well, this is probably the best top to bottom roster in all of the NFL on both sides of the ball. Offense, defense, special teams. Their defensive roster is loaded. They get after a top 5 defense, but their offensive roster, they have Brock Purdy, who had his best year this year. They have Christian McCaffrey. They have Ayuk. They have Debo. They have Kittle. They have running weapons. They have passing weapons. They have a lot of pass catchers. They can beat you multiple different ways. So if you shut down the passing game, they can run the ball down your throat. If you shut down the running game, they can throw the ball all day long. The biggest thing is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy had a really good year this season, but he had 2 games, about 2 or 3 games, when he completely stunk it up. There's absolutely zero middle ground. He was either having a really strong game. The games he was bad, he had 3 picks each of those games. So when he falls off the rails, he completely falls off the rails. So that's just one thing that you always have to be conscious of is it doesn't happen often, but 2 or 3 weeks per year, Brock Purdy is just a complete disaster. So it potentially could happen this week. The Green Bay Packers fans hope that's the case. They're going to try to put a lot of pressure on Purdy. Get to him, hit him, sack him, force him to make mistakes. If they are successful, this game could be a shootout, but obviously the San Francisco 49ers, they're pretty good. Looking at the total team stats here, you have the Packers coming in. They average on offense 22.5 points per game. San Francisco averages 28.9 points per game. That's a top 5 offense. And on defense, Green Bay has a top 15 defense. They give up 20.6 points per game. San Francisco, top 5 defense, giving up 17.5 points per game. So just like the Baltimore Ravens, this is probably the 2 best all-around rosters, the 49ers and Baltimore. I have San Francisco getting the win. 34-20. I have them covering the spread, and I'm going to be going with the over here. So I have the 2 top seeds moving on to the next round of the playoffs. We'll now be moving on to our Sunday slate of games. So Sunday, January 21st, 2024 at 3 p.m. on NBC. We have the 9-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the 12-5 Detroit Lions. This is the NFC Divisional round here, and this game is going to be in Detroit. So the Lions will have home field advantage. Lions finally got their first playoff win. I think it was since like 1990 or 1992. So over 30 years, finally got the playoff win. So props to them for getting there and for getting that taken care of. Tampa Bay, they came out of nowhere second half. This team was not expected to make the playoffs this year. Everyone had them winning about 5 to 6 games, getting a really good pick, but they basically went off. Defense was really strong second half of the season, just like the Packers, mainly led by their defensive line. Tampa Bay's strength is shutting down the run game, forcing you to have to throw the ball, forcing you into 3rd and long situations. Baker Mayfield, what a massive pickup for him. He's the comeback player of the year this year. He basically came out of nowhere. So this is his best year since his rookie season. I always thought he was a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, but a good quarterback. He just needed the right situation. He found that situation this year. White, Evans, Godwin, really good team, really good defense. Tampa Bay, tough team to play. Coming off of that massive win versus the Eagles, they beat the crap out of the Eagles, outplayed them. We did pick the Eagles to lose that game, so we weren't surprised. Tampa Bay's had a great year. Cinderella story, but it's probably set up to lose as of right now. So the Lions are 6.5 point favorites here. The over-under 49.5. Lions, really strong end to the season last year. Started out this year, first half really hot. Once they hit the midway point, they fell off the rails. Defense started getting scorched every single week. Offense started having a lot of turnovers, but they got things right when they needed to. So about a month out from the regular season ending, they got everything fixed. Defense still gets gashed sometimes, but the offense stopped the turnovers. You needed that to end right before the playoffs because you wanted to go into the playoffs hot. They did get that taken care of, and they're coming off of that win versus the Rams this past weekend. Obviously, Lions have playmakers. They have Goff. He had 4,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 picks. They have Montgomery at running back, and they have St. Brown, who had a massive season this year, closing in on 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. Looking at the total team stats here, you have Tampa Bay coming in. They average 20.5 points per game. So not a great offense, but it's serviceable. But the Lions have a really good offense. They average 27.1 points per game. And on defense, Tampa Bay obviously has the edge on defense. They give up 19.1 points per game. That's the top 10 defense. Lions, they leave a little bit to be desired on the defensive side. Still, they give 23.2 points per game. But the Lions are the favorite. Strong season. Finally got the playoff win off of their back. So they're looking at everything going forward. I have the Lions getting the win here. 27-21, so not covering the spread. And I'm also going with the under. I just think that this game could be potentially really close. Lions don't have a good defense, so Tampa Bay can keep this game close if they can continue to get first downs. But I think Tampa Bay's defense should be able to control the Lions, so that'll just keep the game a little closer than it usually would have been. The final game we have coming up is one of the big games, probably the biggest game for everyone. At 6:30 p.m. on CBS Sunday night, we have the 11-6 Kansas City Chiefs versus the 11-6 Buffalo Bills. This is the AFC Divisional round. Again, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. This game is going to be in New York. Buffalo is 2.5-point favorites here, and the over-under is 45.5. Seems like we have this matchup every single season. So far, the Bills and Josh Allen have not beat Kansas City in the playoffs. They want to get that off their back. This is their chance. Beat Kansas City while they're down. People might be saying, well, how is Kansas City down this year? They made it to the divisional round. Their offense is not good. They are not having a good offense this year. Usually they have a good offense and an average defense. This year they have a pretty average offense, but they have an elite defense. So things have kind of been swapped, but you want to beat them when they're not built and prepared to get into shootouts. So this is the year for the Bills to finally get that off their back, get through the Chiefs. Bills have never won a Super Bowl. They went to 4 straight, lost them. This is their chance to fight, get back to the Super Bowl, but they have to get past the Chiefs for the first time. Chiefs, they've obviously had a lot of problems. Mahomes had a lot of turnovers this year. I'm not fully blaming him because no one can catch the ball. So you had Kelsey having some drops, but outside of Kelsey and Rice, everybody else had Butterfinger. So there was a lot of pressure on him specifically to force the ball to people because guys like Tony couldn't catch anything to save their life. Bills have one of the most talented rosters in all of the country. Also, a top 5 offense, top 5 defense. But the biggest problem for the Bills is no one's on the page the same day. So whenever the offense plays good, defense looks like crap. Whenever the defense shut people down, Josh Allen has 4 turnovers. They never play well the same day. If the Bills ever decided to show up the same day, both sides of the ball, they'd probably be the best team in all of football. But that's the problem, is getting everyone on the same page at the same time. When you look at the Chiefs, Mahomes had turnovers this year. Bills have a really talented offensive roster. They have Josh Allen, who's probably the most physically gifted quarterback. But whenever he's off, man, he forces the ball into defenses and has 2 to 3 turnovers per game. If he doesn't have turnovers, though, he has 3 passing touchdowns per game. It's just which Josh Allen shows up. But they have Cook at running back. Their running game is what saved him this year. Josh Allen's never really had a good running game. So that's one thing that they have this season that sets them apart from their previous teams. And obviously they have Diggs at wide receiver with 1,200 yards. Looking at the total team stats here, you have Kansas City coming in. They average 21.8 points per game. Like I said, they don't have a good offense this year. Buffalo averages 26.5 points per game. And on defense, both teams have elite defenses. Kansas City gives up 17.3 points per game. Buffalo gives up 18.3 points per game. This is kind of a 50-50 game. So I can definitely see why people pick the Chiefs. I can definitely see why people pick the Bills. Bills are the favorites finally. Like we said, this is their chance. I would not be surprised, though, if the Chiefs win. They're the more experienced team. They've been here before. they've gotten through the Bills. They have nothing to prove to the Bills. The Bills and Josh Allen have the pressure on them. They have to prove that they can beat Mahomes, Reed, and the Chiefs finally in the playoffs for the first time. The pressure's on Josh Allen to perform, and we know he can perform. He can let it up. He can have 5 touchdowns, but he can also have 3 or 4 turnovers. So how does Josh Allen show up versus a really good defense that's going to put a lot of pressure on him? I have the Bills getting the win 28-20, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. Would I be surprised if the Chiefs win this game? No. I wouldn't go anywhere near this game personally because anything can happen here because you just never know with Josh Allen. He can get completely out of control, throw 2 picks, have 1 fumble, or he could just go off, run for 60 yards, throw for 350. So it's kind of a coin flip right there. But they're the better team technically. But the Chiefs are the more experienced team, so anything can happen. But I have the Bills getting that win and finally getting through the Chiefs. So that's my best bets video for the divisional round. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I'll make sure to respond.